cooking skills could your character learn? How should your character care for cast iron? What experiences might your characters bond over? What kind of advice can an adult ask a child for that would make them thrilled? What tastes awful? Find out in this episode. Welcome to Writing Rule with Allie, the Fiction Writers Weekly inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rule stories to life. I'm Allie, and this is episode number 72, 10 Generationally Passed Skills, Part 2. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong. Now, let's get into this. Real life has many skills that are passed down from generation to generation. Some are passed down to everyone, and others are passed down to individuals who want to learn them. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and even siblings can teach these skills. Today, we will cover 10 more. Number 11, cooking. Cooking is a learned skill, and recipes are passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes they are tweaked, and many times they are not. In most cases, women are the ones teaching. Other times, it's the men. In my case, my dad taught me how to cook. In fact, when he was teaching me to make bread, he messed it up so badly that there was flour on the ceiling. But it was fun. So fun that I wanted to keep learning to cook. There are many things that can be learned, and it will depend on the tribe, era, foods available, and other factors to decide what your characters will learn to cook. Some of the things that they can learn are to cook over an open fire, how to turn wheat into bread, how to cook in a kiln oven, how to use modern stoves and ovens, how to know if the food is fully cooked, how to make a fire for an open fire cooking, how to cook from scratch. That means starting with the individual ingredients and making a meal instead of a pre-mixed things that are bought at the store. Smoking meat, barbecuing, and so much more. Historically, and I assume in the apocalypse, staple foods were something that was taught how to make. These include, but are not limited to, butter, cornmeal, bread, biscuits, and even things like flour and sugar. Cooking can be a bonding experience, or just a chore. How people see cooking will largely depend on their mindset. Number 12, caring for cast iron. Historically, cast iron is one of the most widely used types of metal to cook with. The first known cast iron skillets came from the Han Dynasty in China in roughly 220 AD. Cast iron was a staple cooking tool by the 16th century in Europe. And by the 1800s in America, some books even refer to them as more valuable than gold. With a tool this important, caring for it is essential. One thing everyone with cast iron knows is that it should never be cleaned with soap. I know, that sounds crazy. However, the heat that the cast iron conducts will be enough to kill the germs. While soap does kill germs, it also affects the coating of the cast iron that keeps it from rusting. Okay, I know I lost some of you, so let me explain. You see, cast iron will rust easily when it comes in contact with water. To stop this process, your character will season the skillet or other cast iron. Seasoning means that a thin layer of oil or fat covers the cast iron. The thin layer protects the cast iron, making it non-stick, and leaves a distinct flavor. Some people can tell when it's cooked with cast iron and others can't. Soap will break apart this thin layer, and the cast iron is susceptible to rust when this happens. Instead, cast iron is wiped out after every use and rinsed in hot water. The seasoning will keep it safe from the water. Then it's carefully patted dry, and some people even warm it back up to make sure that it is fully dry. A thin layer of oil can be added if it is needed. This is about all there is to this one. Okay, now I hear you. But Allie, what if it gets really gross? Good question. This depends on what gross we're talking about. If the oil the character is using has floaties or other debris, this is brought to a cooking temperature and cornstarch is added. It will cook the cornstarch, but the cornstarch will combine with all the little nasties and can be removed like this. If something horrible happened and there's no other option but to wash the cast iron, it can be done with a wash and heat method until all of the black flakes come off. These black flakes are the seasoning when it is removed this way. It can take time, and a cast iron scrubber is used. A cast iron scrubber, basically a small section of chainmail. Like literally, it looks like chainmail. This is used so that the scrubbers do not scrape the cast iron. After it is cleaned of all of the flakes, it is then immediately reseasoned. No one wants to reseason it the next day, and your character should not either. If they did, it would be one giant rust pot, and no one wants to eat rust. Seasoning is done by covering the whole thing in a thin layer of oil or fat, inside and out. Sometimes more than one layer is added. Always wipe off the extra oil so that there's not a grease fire. Then it's heated for an hour. This can be done on a preheated stove or an open fire. But this can risk spots that are not fully seasoned. An oven is always the best for heating it, as it will give it the most even heating and cooling, but it will work with the stove or open fire. Once it is fully seasoned, turn the heat off and take it off the open fire or the stove and let it cool down before using it. This can be done to re-season it if the seasoning comes off. One other thing to remember is that cast iron does not do well with acidic foods. Tomatoes, vinegar, citrus can strip the seasonings off of the cast iron, making the food taste off. As in, it will not taste like it should, and your character might not know why if they don't know that acidic foods can cause this. Cast iron is most often thought of as a skillet, but there are also pots, pans, Dutch ovens, and even cauldrons. I have heated water to wash laundry in a giant cauldron. That was fun. Number 13, woodworking. Woodworking, in this context, is using wood to make things. Historically, that was done with hand tools, aka non-electric tools. This could be, but is not limited to, log cabins, wood furniture, wagons, wooden hinges, new handles for axes and gardening tools, making bookcases, making sewing machine tables, barns, windmills, water mills, and so much more. Woodworking is a skill that can be easy or as hard as you make it. I can make simple stuff that is functional and will do. I know many people who can do things that are far fancier than I can do. And I still remember a story about my grandfather going to town to buy hinges, and my great-great-grandfather had made and installed some wooden hinges before he got back from town, and then proceeded to tell him that he was wasting his money on those store-bought hinges. There are intricate pieces all the way back to ancient Egypt and ancient China. Both could make locks that were more complicated than we use today. Sturdy furniture could be passed down from generation to generation, and this was normal up until the modern furniture became popular in the 1960s. Woodworking is still popular, but many times it's done with modern electrical tools now, which make things a whole lot faster, although changing tools every little bit can get very tedious. Number 14, small engines. Learning how to work on small engines is next on this list. Yes, for the most part, it is a modern skill, but some of the skills were used for things like well pumps. As far back as 250 BC in Rome and Greece, when the Archimedes screw was invented. These have clearly advanced, and many things have been added together to make the small engines we know today. Some of the things that use small engines today include, but are not limited to, well pumps. You knew this one was coming. Lawnmowers, weed eaters, chainsaws, go-karts, and more. Most of these are tools that are needed in rural life. Some of these are just for fun. These skills seem to be picked up well by some, and others have a hard time with it. It just depends on the individual. However, it's also a great bonding experience, and kids love it when they are asked for their opinions on how to fix something. Number 15, butchering. Part of rural life is raising your own food. This includes your own meat in many cases. Whether you personally eat meat or not, there is no denying that this is a huge part of human life. Rural characters will be able to do this without much fuss. Yes, it can, and literally will, be bloody, but that is something most people get over before they are 3. Why so young? Because it's not something that's hidden or made out to be shameful. People have to eat, and this is where it comes from. Butchering means killing the animal, skinning or plucking it, and removing the internal organs. If you're fancy, it will also mean cutting off the different cuts of meat. Now, I know some of you are wondering how kids are not attached to the animals. First, if they know what the livestock will become, they won't get so attached. And second, no one is allowed to name the animals. I got a whipping on more than one occasion for trying to name them. And last, well, you guys remember Charlotte's Web. where the little girl bottle feeds the pig and takes care of it, and then when it's time to butcher them, they find a way to save it? Yeah, in real life, our parents not only butchered it, but they forced us to be the ones to do it. My brother still tells stories about being forced to do this. Now, if you're thinking this is kind of harsh, maybe. But historically and after an apocalypse, you have to do what you have to do to eat and survive. And you'd have to teach your children how to also. Sometimes it is hard, like with my brother, and sometimes it isn't. This is different with every single person. Number 16, wild edibles, including what not to eat. Learning what to eat and what not to eat in the forest, or even your own front yard, could save your character's life. What happens if after the apocalypse their home burns down and all of the food in it? They're going to need to eat. What about if they're lost after a plane crash? They'll need to know what to eat and what is dangerous to eat. Food is essential to life. However, there are other important things that your character will find useful. Some plants can be used like band-aids, and others can be used like an antiseptic. Some can be made into tea for pain, cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and more. Did you know that the liquid in the green part of a walnut shell has been used as a warmer for animal and people? Yep, and it tastes awful. Knowing these things will not only save your character, but could make life easier too. If after the apocalypse, they are the only ones to know some of these things, then it's a skill people will seek them out for. That could be good or bad. It also helps to find a way to make money and barter and trade. All of these are things to think about. Number 17, shooting guns. This one is part of everyday life in all rural communities, even today. Shooting guns can be used for many things. Hunting and self-defense are at the top of the list. It can also be used to scare off unwanted predators of both the four- and two-legged kind. Pretty much everyone knows how to use a gun and how to safely handle it. I know little old ladies who are close to 100 that can shoot better than I ever hoped to, and I'm not that bad of a shot. If your character lives in a rural setting and doesn't have a gun, they are a huge exception, and you better have a good reason, because it is not normal and it will stick out like a sore thumb. Number 16, soap making. Making soap is a skill that is passed down. Granted, in modern times, you can learn from YouTube, but it was only launched in 2005, and as of the time I'm recording this, it makes it less than 20 years old. There are many different methods to make, the oldest being animal fat and wood ash. Yes, that really does make a type of soap. Lye soap has been around for thousands of years and is sadly illegal, at least where I live, to teach you to make, so you'll have to look this one up on your own. It is super simple, but your character will need to be careful. Lye water before it is made into soap can chemically burn the skin. Number 19, blacksmithing. Blacksmithing has been around since man first started using metals. The original ones were to make spearheads, arrowheads, and in some cases pots. Blacksmithing has grown as more metals were found and made and more techniques were invented. Everything from weapons to wagon wheels to horseshoes have been made by blacksmiths. Blacksmiths are typically men. Also, all were very talented at their job. I have had hand-forged, that means made by a blacksmith, tools before, and they were better than anything that you can buy at the store today. In fact, I have a few that survived a house fire that got so hot that it cracked my cast iron skillet. Modern blacksmiths can typically weld also. There are many backyard blacksmiths. This means that people are not professionals, but they do enjoy little projects. I did this as a teen and learned how to turn screwdrivers into chisels. A fun side note, don't do this in the fireplace in the living room if you have carpeted floors. My dad did, and he branded the carpet when my best friend's pretty mom walked in. Yes, it was just as funny as what you just pictured. Number 20, leatherworking. Leatherworking is another skill that is passed down. Historically, it is passed to everyone so people could make clothing, shoes, gloves, and more. Native Americans used them to make teepees. Other things they can be used to make are saddles, belts, bags, armor, harnesses, quivers, water bags, and much more. Making the leather itself is a process and can be done a few different ways. What a person plans to do with it can also affect how it's made. Some winter boots and gloves were leather on the outside and fur on the inside. Teepees would be made of hard leather with no fur. Saddles needed to be tough. Book bindings were popular at certain times in history. Water bladders and teepees would need to be waterproof. All of these were a different process. Many people also thought of ways to decorate the leather. This could be done by the thread that they used, shells, painting, smoking them to change the color, or leather designs in the leather itself. These were passed down and improved upon over the generations. Fun fact! Lye soap is still the #1 all-natural soap in the world. Now for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong? Before we get into the best part, if you enjoyed today's podcast, I hope you'll take a minute to follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe and hit the like button. And drop me a comment. I love to hear from you and answer questions. Don't forget to share with a friend. As always, you can find this episode's show notes and helpful links to learn more on my website, AllieHart.com. And now, for everyone's favorite part. Likely to go wrong. Your character is a blacksmith. As they are hammering red-hot metal, it sends sparks flying. One of them lands on your character, burning them. Also likely to go wrong. Your character is cooking and needs to add sugar to the recipe. The sugar and salt containers look alike and are not well labeled. They mistakenly use salt. The food comes out too salty to eat. Also likely to go wrong. Your character is learning to smoke leather and gets it too close to the fire, burning a section of the leather. Possible to go wrong. Your character is cooking in a cast iron skillet and let the food sit too long in the skillet, burning it to the skillet. Also possible to go wrong. Your character doesn't know to season the cast iron skillet. They wash it with soap and water after using it. The next day, it is covered in rust. Also possible to go wrong. Your character misidentifies a berry plant. If they are lucky, it will induce vomiting. If they are unlucky, this could be deadly. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character is working on a small engine after it has been running for a bit. When they touch it, they burn themselves on the hot metal. Also unlikely to go wrong. Your character chemically burns their hand in lye water because they didn't know to use gloves. Also unlikely to go wrong. Your character is shooting guns and one shot doesn't fire. Just as they start to take it out, it delay fires and scares your character. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character tries to butcher an animal after the apocalypse. They have to stop several times to keep from being sick, as they are very grossed out by blood. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character carefully crafts a wooden chair for their potential spouse. However, they are not as good at this as they think. The first time the person sits in the chair, it collapses under them. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!